Many couples who make a lot of money also make a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes when it comes to marriage, to the precious prized relationship that so many of us long for and want and make great sacrifices for. But when we are making a lot of money, whether it's building wealth in business and professional sports, in medicine, in arts and entertainment, there are some things that couples do that get in the way of their marriages. Now, I spent 14 years as an NFL chaplain and life coach, and I've been blessed to build a coaching business to really well known, well paid people. And that business has been a real blessing to my life so that we have experienced the privilege of making a little bit of money. How about that? And I know the mistakes firsthand. I know because I was tempted to make them, but I've seen people make them. And the people that I coach, that I work with, are often making these mistakes. And whether you are a high dollar earner, well known, or just an everyday person, um, none of that status stuff is the point of this video. The whole point of this video is to help whoever you are learn from the mistakes that the wealthy often make that cost them their marriages, it costs them their families, cost them oftentimes their image and their platform. Not unlike the Coldplay couple, that cost them dearly. Can you imagine what that fallout is like for them? The shame that they may be experiencing, the shame that their family members, their children may be experiencing. It's difficult to recover from. And so it is true that money is great because it gives you room, it gives you the ability to exercise options. No financial pun intended, but you get to exercise options. You get to make decisions differently when you have built wealth. And so I'm in full celebration of people earning as much as they can. I'm just cautious about people earning and making the mistakes that cost them more than they bargained for when it comes to their marriages. Divorce is expensive on any level. It is expensive. When you're losing half of your assets, when you're losing time with your children, when you're losing your energy and oftentimes your mind, it seems, because of the pain and the aggravation, divorce is costly. And so I want to encourage you, don't make these mistakes. So let's jump right into it. What are the mistakes? The first one is not having a system for spending time together. Anything you want to accomplish, you must be intentional about accomplishing it because what you focus on is what you get, what you obsess about comes about. And most couples who are busy building their careers, building their wealth, building their businesses, make the mistake of not being intentional about having a system for how they spend time together. Most people who do really well in life do so because they know how to build systems. Systems are what make things happen repeatedly, and you can scale, and you can produce, and you can sell, and you can make great income. But they don't have a system for how they spend time together. Imagine that. If you want to succeed, build a system. And the system that we use, me and Sherry, we've been married for 34 years. We've been using this system for years, and it has made an enormous impact on our lives after having both been children of divorce and being committed to building something amazing in our family and as a married couple. All right, so here it is: once a day, once a week, once a month, once a quarter, once a year, once a decade. We just break our lives into those times and we create unique ways to spend time together in each of those sections of time. So you got to have a system if you're going to spend time because nobody gets married to be alone. Nobody gets married to be alone. So, how about being intentional and build a system that will help you spend time together? Here's the second mistake that rich couples make, and that is not putting marriage above business. Not putting marriage above business. Isn't it amazing how we work hard for the assets and then we start treating the assets like they are the marriage? Marriage is a powerful asset. And I think if you want to go far in life, focus on building your marriage, build that intimate relationship. And you can actually build both at the same time. One does not have to compete with the other. But so often, I've seen people make the mistake of putting the business before the marriage, elevating business above marriage, so that doing business becomes the thing that subsumes their marriage, especially if they're in business together or if they have separate careers, their businesses take over and eventually they drift apart. Eventually, they start to look at each other differently. Eventually, what happens is they become lonely and they think that the problem is the person, but the problem really is that they're deeply frustrated by not being able to nurture relationship and experience all of the benefits that come from building each other before they build the business. And so you don't have to have balance necessarily, but you do have to have intentionality. And sometimes people make the business more important than the person. So that then they start talking about assets and who has what and who gets what. And they start, I've seen couples start hiding money. And it gets really weird and it gets really ugly. But they forget that we were created to be in connection before we were created to make our contribution in business. And both of them are important. But you got to have the balance. Well, that's it. It doesn't have to be balanced, but it does have to be intentional. That's the thing that I want you to capture. And so don't make the mistake of putting your pursuit of wealth or your money or your business itself ahead of the person you're trying to build a life with. Third mistake, couples who are doing really well have built some resources. And by the way, having resources is wonderful because having resources gives you options. You can decide where you're going for vacation. You can decide how long you're going on vacation. You can decide where you want to live. You can decide where you don't want to live. You can make some powerful, powerful decisions when you have when you have wealth, when you have resources. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that relationships are always more life-giving than money will ever be. I know some of y'all don't believe that, but take it from me. Take it from me. I've watched this happen with many of my clients over the years have to make the decision that our family, our marriage is more important than the business of medicine or the business of football or the business of baseball, right? Because otherwise what happens is the business can become the other partner. Did y'all catch that? It can become the other partner. It can become like many spouses talk about feeling like their spouse is having an affair with the business, with their work, with the thing that's bringing the money home. And doesn't matter how much money comes home, when one of the spouses feels left out, lonely, and cheated on by the business, we gonna have problems 100%. You can take that to the bank. All right. So here's another mistake people make, and that is not refusing the lazy route. What do you mean not refusing you have to choose when your life has great demands on it, not to take the lazy route. But there is a mistake that wealthy people make, people who are very successful make, that makes them lazy. I've been tempted to do it. I've seen others be tempted to do it. I've watched my clients have to reel from this and come back from this, not refusing the lazy route. In other words, being intentional about personal and relationship development. Like, it's a huge mistake to think that because you're successful at the thing that brings you money means that you're also fine, you're good with what it takes to have a great relationship. That is the lazy route. That's saying, oh, I got this figured out. It doesn't take much. I already know. As long as I bring money home, we're good. As long as we got money, we're good. As long as we can go on great vacations, we're good. As long as we can give the kids great things, we're good. As long as we can get them into the schools of their choices, private schools, and they can have the things that they want, we're good. Listen, money is no substitute for a good relationship. It cannot buy you a great relationship. Now, it can buy you a good looking spouse. Somebody help me right now. It can, listen, sometimes money can buy you some things, but it cannot buy you a great relationship. You got to work if you want to have a great relationship. No, I mean, you got to work on the relationship, not just work in your business. It's your work at what's building your wealth. In fact, I would argue that building your marriage is building your wealth, because the people who are wealthiest are healthiest in their relationships, in their body, and in their minds. So you want to make sure you don't take the lazy route. Development, self improvement, growth, personal growth, and relationship growth call for real intentionality. I was speaking at a conference recently to professional athletes from baseball and hockey and soccer and from different countries around the world. And I said, hey, listen, I want to challenge you to spend money developing yourselves. I said, this year I will have spent blank. And I gave them the figure, and they all looked at me like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? I'm like, you spend this money on trainers, you spend this money getting massage therapy, you spend this money, on all the things that go into making you a great athlete. Why wouldn't you spend similar money on making you a great person? Because if you don't develop yourself and work intentionally to develop the marriage, you cannot have a great marriage without investing to have it. Personal development, relationship development is crucial. And many people ride on the laurels of success in one area of life, thinking that it will transfer or transfer to another area. It just doesn't work that way. And so they make the mistake of refusing the lazy route. Like, you got to refuse the lazy route. You got to get up. You got to find a coach. You got to say, let's work on our marriage. Let's work on our individual growth. Because if you don't increase your ability to be an amazing person, you will not be able to do marriage well, and you will not be able to have an amazing marriage. All right. Not resisting bad legal advice. That's huge. Bad legal advice. Like, everybody needs legal advice. Don't never go into business and not have a great legal team. But people take legal advice from people like who got bad marriages. I'm always amazed at the legal advice about prenuptial agreements. Can we talk about that for a moment? Like, prenups are some of the dumbest advice I've ever heard. I know y'all like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Listen, I have worked with couples for years, for decades, well paid, high earning, very successful people whom I love and I really appreciate, and they're dear friends of mine, even after they're not my clients anymore. But this prenuptial agreement thing is the dumbest legal advice I've ever heard. Why would you let a lawyer who oftentimes doesn't have a great marriage tell you to get a prenuptial agreement? Do you know what a prenuptial agreement does? It begins the process of marital sabotage the moment you sign the prenuptial agreement. Like, what do you mean, man? So prenup agreements are designed to say, we got an out if this doesn't go well. Now, yeah, let's be real. Marriage is challenging, and there are days and months and sometimes years where things don't go well. But when you build into the marriage an out in order to protect your assets from the beginning, you have now built something in your brain that says you don't have to work that hard. You got an out. If you got to sign a prenup agreement, if you have to demand a prenup agreement, you should probably just say, why don't we not get married? Because most people who sign prenup agreements just don't work as hard as people who haven't signed one. They don't work hard at becoming a better person. They don't work hard at becoming a better spouse. They don't work hard as hard at becoming a great partner, a great parent, because there's already an out. It's kind of like the easy button. Oh, yeah, yeah. Hit me back up in the comments. I want to hear what you got to say about this. Because I know some of y'all think I'm really, really bugging. Like, no, you got to protect that money. If I have to protect myself against you, I probably shouldn't marry you. And if you feel the need to protect yourself against me, then you shouldn't marry me. Like, we're not getting married unless you sign this prenup agreement. Okay, now we got a posture, and this is breaking down right now. Because I thought we were in it for better or for worse. I thought that's the way covenant marriage works. Like, could you imagine God backing out on you because you messed up? Like, God is the one who builds covenant. By the way, marriage is a covenant. Business is contractual. Contracts are performative. Covenants are based on word and credibility and character. So the moment you sign a prenup agreement, right, and you take bad legal advice to do so, you have already begun to sabotage the relationship. And I'm just saying, it's better you choose to learn how to do the work of relationships than that you choose to out from the relationship. Otherwise, you'll be like Elizabeth Taylor, like one marriage after the next. I mean, how many marriages can you go through? Rupert Murdoch. I mean, we can just go down the line, right? Many people just keep recycling through marriages because they keep embracing bad legal counsel. Not realizing money can't buy the solution to a bad marriage. Yeah, this is the next mistake. Not realizing that money cannot buy the solution to a bad marriage. So in my work with high earnings clients, I have to remind them that just because you pay my fee doesn't mean that I'm going to save your marriage. If you want to work with me and you pay my fee, and my fee is not cheap, you're going to have to do some work. If you don't want to work, I don't want to work with you. If you have an expectation that you can buy the solution simply by paying for the coaching but not doing the work, we do not have a deal. So I have to remind people that you're going to do work that's harder than you've ever done, but will give you benefits that you've never had. It's only hard because most people have ever done it, but it's not hard. Yeah, you follow what I'm saying? So, but oftentimes wealthy people make the mistake of thinking they can just pay their way out of the pain and that they can pay someone to fix their marriage. And that's not how it works. Marriage is that kind of relationship where you got to be willing to do the work. And it's not just any work. Don't let people tell you marriage is a lot of work. Well, it's work, yeah, because it's relationships. But if you're doing the right work, it's really not that hard. It's kind of like, for all the golfers out there, y'all know, once you learn how to swing the club, you always know how to swing the club. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. But you don't take golf lessons to go apply to throwing a football or shooting a basketball, right? It's just not the same thing. And so you got to learn the work that applies to the thing that needs the work, if that makes sense to you. You got to learn the work that applies to the thing that needs the work. You don't go and learn golf so that you can become a great basketball player. And I'm sure there's some crossover traits that come from the dedication and all that, but you get my point, right? Money can't buy the solution to a bad marriage. So, friends, don't make the mistake of thinking you're just going to pay somebody, they're going to fix your marriage and, you know, you'll be good. No, it's not going to work like that. And I say that with all love and respect. I'm just challenging you. You got to change that mindset. All right. Let me give you, let's see, a couple more here. Yeah. Not building the capacity for new learning. Not building the capacity for new learning. You know, when you're successful at anything, and when you're successful at anything and you earn a lot of money at it, it is easy to keep um, using the same success formula and continue to only work in one dimension of your life, namely the area where you're successful, where you're earning the most. Because there's a feedback loop to our brains when we're successful, and that is, oh, this was how you became successful. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. It makes you successful. And you keep doing the same thing to be successful. And that's why I watch a lot of people who reach certain levels of success who stop growing and stop expanding their potential because they don't build new capacity to learn different things that will help them become better people, more effective in their relationships. I had a couple call me recently, and after having retired from football for a number of years, they're both on the verge of walking away from it. One is she's just frustrated. She's hurt, and he's frustrated. And what I realize is that they went somewhere to get support, get counseling, and it was, it was cheap, but it didn't require anything of them. They said, "Well, we want to work with you." I said, "Well, if you want to work with me, you're going to have to learn some new things." "Well, I don't think we're going to be able to do that." I said, "Well, I won't be able to coach you." Right? You gotta open up. So how do you develop capacity to help you continue learning new things? One, be curious and not closed. Be curious and not closed. Be curious. Be open to what you don't know. Be curious, not closed. Don't be self-deceived. Become self-disciplined. Self-deceived means I'm good. I think I know everything that I need to know. But it takes discipline to grow to new levels because you got to put away some things that you used to hold on to, some ideas, some habits, some ways, some thinking. And then you got to embrace the journey with discipline to a new kind of learning. Not unlike when you go from high school to college, from college to a master's program, from a master's program to a doctoral program, from one level of entrepreneurship to the next level of entrepreneurship, to the next level of your business, and then to the next level. It requires new disciplines at every level. Okay, here's the last one. You got to learn control of urges, emotions, and entitlements. If you're going to grow your capacity to learn and go to new heights and be a better spouse, you will have to learn to control your emotions, your urges, and entitlements. This is the work that's required. Is this too much for y'all today? I hope it's not. All right, let me give you this last mistake that high earnings couples make when it comes to their marriages, and it's costing people their marriages. Before I jump to that, let me just say, make sure you get the Better Communication for Couples workshop. There's a link right below. I believe it can be a huge help to you. And if you or someone you know is struggling with recovering from infidelity, make sure to pre-order Rebuilding Us. That's the new book coming out. It's a guide for couples who want to recover from infidelity. So often people give up on their marriages because of infidelity. I believe that people can recover and be better than ever. So that's for you. Here's the last of the mistakes, and that is not resolving childhood trauma. It's difficult to not only understand trauma, but it's difficult to wade into the process for resolving it. And so often people get married and our trauma travels with us. Yes, it travels with us. Trauma travels. Trauma travels. Say that 10 times. Trauma travels. Yes, trauma travels. It travels with us. It travels with us from our childhood into our marriages. And it is that very unresolved trauma that creates consternation in our marriages, even though we don't know what's happening. We're oftentimes responding to the things that hurt us earlier in our lives. And sometimes those things are they're what we call re-injured inside the marriage because of things that we do that hurt one another inside our marriages. But when you are busy earning your way and when you've got enough money to cruise and to do what you want to do, most people don't go back and resolve the trauma from early in life. And so we sort of develop this like cover it up, patch it up with the stuff, but stuff doesn't fix the things that hurt us. I was talking to lady I met recently. I was at a conference, and a bunch of us went out to lunch together. And she was telling me about her friend, and her friend has agreed to some unsavory things in her marriage. And she said, and so the young lady I met, she said, and I'm uncomfortable with it. I don't know if I really get along with that, but I love my friend. I care about her. I said, so what do you want to do? She says, well, I'd like to be able to talk with her. I'd like to understand what's going on with her. I said, oh, you want to know what's going on? I said, how do you think your friend, why do you think your friend is doing what she's doing? She says, I don't know. I said, tell me about how she presents herself when she shows up to a gathering or in a room. Does she need to be the life of the party? She goes, yes, she always needs to be the life of the party. And then she goes, yeah, and she's wearing these clothes now. Like she's never dressed like this before. She's always got to have, the Chanel bags, and she's always got to have, the Jimmy Choos, and she's always got to have all of these, elegant, clothing. And but she wasn't that way before. So she's always, I said, oh, she needs attention. Her friend goes, oh my goodness, absolutely. And then she began to tell me her backstory and how she was ignored by her parents and how she was treated badly in relationships. And so now the way that she compensates for her trauma is by trying to put on Jimmy Choos and Chanel bags and eyelashes and boob jobs or a boob job. You see what I'm saying? Don't make the mistake of not doing the very certain work that can bring about almost instant transformation in your marriage. In fact, I've worked with couples and I have helped them literally build harmony in their marriages in 8 weeks after years of struggling while they were building their careers, building the material side of their lives. Again, nothing wrong with that. But when that struggle in marriage is taking over your life, you need solutions. And my hope is that this video has provided you some solutions. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll be back in the next video to keep helping you grow and strengthen your marriage and your connection. Talk to you soon.